North Korea firing yet another missile this week and promising to reduce the United States to, quote, ash and darkness. The act of defiance coming as the UN steps up sanctions and the U.S. begins to put more financial pressure on China to do more. What's it going to take to get North Korea to finally do what we need it to do and get rid of the Kim Jong-un regime? Hi, everyone. I am Trish Regan. Welcome to Cashing In, our Cashing In crew. This week, we have Rachel Campostuffy, Juan Williams, and former Utah Congressman Jason Chafe. It's good to see you all. Welcome to everyone. Jason, I'm going to start with you. What is it that we need to be doing right now? Because we cannot allow this regime to be able to have the ability to hurt us and to hurt Japan the way they can right now.
Well, look, we've done, what, 8 or 9 sessions of sanctions. I don't think those are going to work. If they were going to work, A, we should have done the maximum a long time ago, and B, I don't think Kim Jong-un cares about his people. So we have a lot of military might there, but it is only China and Russia that can put pressure on the North Korea regime. But then again, I think our military is going to have to step it up, and they may need to have a little bit more of a show of force. I do think that President Moon of South Korea has taken a much more palatable, if you will, stance against North Korea. He started out as more of a dove, and he's been a bit more hawkish, and I think that's important. All
right, you know, everybody keeps escalating this with military action, putting us along the path effectively to World War III. I want to back it up here for a second, because I'll tell you one thing, Rachel. China holds a big key to this. Rex Tillerson just out this week saying China and Russia need to be on board with us to cooperate to get rid of this regime. I have asked countless intelligence specialists and countless generals, what is it that we could do to basically put Kim Jong-un off in a corner and replace that regime? And they say, we can't. We can't. It's China that holds the key to that. So if that's the case, Rachel, how do we get tough with China?
Well, it's such a great question, and you're right. The key is China, even more so than Russia. And for some reason, they don't want a regime change, and it must be, I think, because they don't want they want that buffer of North Korea on their border, so that South Korea, which is U.S. friendly, isn't right there or joined up with North Korea in some way. And I think they're also afraid of a refugee problem. So there's got to be some solution, just short of regime change, that cripples, at least militarily, the leader of North Korea. But I think that the only way to do it is to go after Chinese banks. And I think it's going to take Donald Trump really being very serious and maybe actually doing that, even knowing it could cause us some economic harm. But this thing is escalating so fast. If we don't do this economically, it is going to go to military, and I don't think that's good for anybody.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Rachel. I would much rather lose a few dollars than lose lives. And those are choices that we can and need to be making. I mean, Juan, we've sanctioned one Chinese bank. Whoopee, right? Yeah. You know, the Bank of China, by the way, a couple blocks away from here, they're still fully in operation. There are a slew, and not to implicate them, but there are a ton of Chinese banks that are still doing business with North Korea one way or another. Shouldn't we be going after China hard? And I mean being willing to do whatever it takes, including cutting trade off with China, if they don't actually step up to the plate and help.
Well, let's stop for a second here. I mean, I agree with you, Trish, about the military option. I've yet to talk with a general who says, oh, we can go in there and it's going to be surgical and there won't be any collateral damage. There's huge presence of American troops, more than 30,000 there in South Korea, plus the entire area of South Korea and Japan. These are our allies, and there would be consequences to military action. It would be, as Defense Secretary Mattis has said, a bloodbath. But in terms of China, remember, China voted with us in the United Nations to up the sanctions. And by up the sanctions, I mean ban oil imports into North Korea, stop their sale of textiles, which is a key source of revenue for that North Korean regime. The question is, are we willing to accept a nuclear North Korea? I think Japan is not, unless you say to Japan, oh, yeah, you get nukes, too. And South Korea, as we heard from Jason Chaffetz a moment ago, is becoming more aggressive in terms of their stance, but they really can't change what's going on. So I think we're going to have to negotiate it, and the question is, how much are you willing to accept in terms of saying to North Korea,
we're not willing to accept a nuclear North Korea. I think that's the bottom line. And not only are we not willing to accept it, Representative Chaffetz, when you think of what that would mean for global instability, I mean, with the North Koreans under so much financial pressure, who's to say that they won't go sell to some rogue Middle Eastern nation that will then use that equipment against us?
Well, look, the reason that they're able to do what they're able to do is in large part because of Iran. And so both want death and destruction to the United States. And you have to look at the U.S. national debt. China holds most of the debt. You start to see the problem when you have to actually sell more debt into the world markets. And if we get into a trade war with China and they don't want to buy our debt, that also has huge implications.
I've heard that argument, but I'm gonna fire back this one at you. Okay, so what? They hold our debt. Well, guess what? We are the ones that need to pay that debt. So it's a little bit like if you're the bank and, someone's got a mortgage that's in jeopardy of default, you don't want them to default, right? You want to help them to make whatever payment they can because you need that debt to stay active and continue getting paid on time. So, Rachel, as much as people bring up this argument that, we are in debt to China and they're effectively our banker, we're the ones that owe them so much money. They're the ones that need to get paid back. We have more leverage than we think.
I totally agree with you. We have a lot more leverage. And luckily, we have a president, I think, who's willing to get tough. This North Korea problem didn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, Representative Chaffetz brings up a good point about Iran's involvement. We have empowered Iran. Also, remember, when Muammar Gaddafi gave up his nuclear ambitions, we had Hillary Clinton there saying, we came, he died. So we have made it rational for the leader of North Korea to want to go nuclear for his own survival. So really, our whole basket lies in China. And I agree with you. I'm a mom. I would much rather see us lose economically and use that leverage we have against Chinese banks to get them to cut off the oil than I would ever want to see this military option.
Hold on a second, everybody. Wait a minute. So you're saying you would have us at a moment when the economy is looking good, when middle-class incomes are at historic highs, you want to start the equivalent of a trade war over banking with China that's going to destabilize the world economy? I think you guys better think this one through.
A trade war is much better than a nuclear war, and I think this situation is escalating to a level and at a rate that makes me very nervous as a parent, as a citizen.